Welcome back to another episode of The Curious Consumer. Today we have a very special guest, Tara Bosch. She's the founder of Snackish, a new better-for-you potato chip brand that's got protein in it, it's got fiber in it, it's cooked with avocado oil, and it just launched nationwide in Target. But you might best know her as the founder of Smart Sweets, a brand I would say was very ahead of its time in the better-for-you curve that we're seeing now in CPG. Tara, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here with you both. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to chat. And congrats on the launch. It just happened nationwide at Target. How are you feeling? How's it been?
Yes, it literally just happened. The chips are on the shelf. It's been really magical. I feel like the vision lives in your head for so long. To see it actualized in the real world is a really special moment.
Can you actually tell us a little bit about Snackish? What is it? I think potato chips is simple of a way to explain
Way too simple.
So Snackish, the vision started about a year ago. My daughter Willa became obsessed with the yellow chip bag and carrying it around with her everywhere. And I also love potato chips, but had stopped eating them over the years because they either don't taste great or they don't make you feel great. And so that really was what sparked the vision to change what a chip could be, and Snackish was born. Really, the vision that we're setting out on is innovating the everyday snack for a new generation. So when you think of any of your favorite salty snacks, Snackish is the brand delivering on you being able to feel good about enjoying it every single day. And we started with potato chips.
Okay, so we're building out a platform brand here, it sounds like. And that's a big deal for someone coming off of being a founder once before and an incredibly successful founder in CPG once before. You had a $360 million exit of Smart Sweets in 2020. There were 5 years in between. Can you tell us a little bit about what went on from that exit to deciding to return to this world and build out this platform brand?
Yeah, when I was building Smart Sweets, I was so grateful to have the opportunity to somehow have brought that mission to kick sugar to life. And the whole time I was also hanging on for dear life. And everyone tells you to enjoy this moment, but when you're in it, it's so hard that sometimes you're like, it just also will be so nice to be able to not be up at 4 a.m. staring at the roof thinking about what is around the bend and how you're possibly going to solve the mountain that lies ahead. So with Smart Sweets, I always knew at some point it would make sense to find a partner. And at kind of the timing, we were in our 4th year, we were crossing the threshold of 100 million, and I kind of didn't have the same gut instinct I had had up until that point about what's the path now to get to that next level of growth. And my grandmother, who inspired the vision, was also entering her last years of life, and I really wanted to be present for her in those years like she was for me my whole life. When I signed the papers and we found a partner that really felt like the most authentic fit to actualize the vision in the next stage, 2 weeks after, I started to get really sick. I thought I was slowly dying, like adrenal fatigue, burnout, like you hear about all these things. I definitely pushed myself to the limits every single day. I remember by like the end of Smart Sweets, not on brand, but I was having like 6 zero sugar Monster energy drinks a day and not feeling anything from it. And so my nervous system certainly needed a minute, but I thankfully wasn't slowly dying. I found out 6 months later I was actually going to have a baby in 2.5 months at the most. And so I dove from the intensity of company building into the intensity of becoming a mom. I had, the day before I found out I was pregnant, my flippers packed and a one-way ticket booked to the Maldives because I'd never gone on a vacation in my life, and it was like my kind of bucket list thing to just go and exist in the world as a human for a minute. And then 24 hours later, found out I was actually going to have a baby very, very soon. And so dove into the intensity of that and postpartum and becoming a single mama and all of it. A year after Willa entered the world in kind of a divine way, my grandmother passed, and Willa had become the center of her orbit in her last year. So they sent each other off and into the world, and it felt just really special. I then became really passionate about, through my Smart Sweets journey as well, of empowering other women in their journeys and being part of normalizing conversations around imposter syndrome and self-doubt, because those feelings, whether I was recipe testing in my kitchen or signing the papers to sell, never went away from me. They were always there. So created a few impact initiatives to empower women to know they're infinitely capable of bringing their grandest visions to life. And just spent a few years doing that and just existing in the world with my little human.
Love that story. That's very impactful too. And I'm curious, as you've started to build this brand, how did that experience impact what you decided to do with Snackish?
I think that, and you guys are such Einsteins, that you have such an incredible POV on it. As grateful as I've been and continue to be able to show up and be like in support of other women on their journeys, I also realized how magical that feeling is, to have something where it's the timing aligns, the right team, the right product, all of those variables align is so rare and magical. And so I really realized just how lucky it is to have that happen even once in your life. And so I set an intention about 6 months before the Snackish vision came that if there was ever an authentic why, an incredible group of women to build with, like how lucky would that be? And then 6 months later is when Willa became obsessed with potato chips, and also in looking, and somehow Snackish was available as a brand platform, which was shocking to me because Smart Sweets, it's such an emotionally connected word and sentiment, and it lights up a feeling in everyone. That was also incredibly divine in its own timing too.
I love that. It is crazy Snackish was available. I was thinking that when I heard that Snackish was launching, I was like, how did that not exist as a brand before? I'm interested similarly. There's so much pressure these days in CPG to be building towards something, and Smart Sweets ended up building toward this incredible exit. I imagine there's probably a lot of external pressure to build this brand that it sounds like you're building this so meaningfully and thoughtfully, and yet I'm sure there's a lot of external forces that are saying, you've exited for millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars before, do it again. Are you listening to that noise? How are you factoring that into building a brand? I imagine there's just extra pressure, and I'm curious how that looks for you.
That's a great question. I think when I had the vision for Snackish, like the very first thing that came into my mind was like, if I'm going to do this again, it has to be fun, because life is so short and no days are guaranteed. I know now this time the hardness that I was choosing to walk into from starting from ground zero. Amidst that hardness, it has to still have a light energy about it and just be fun. And just as much as the what with Snackish that we're building in the world, the how is something that I also felt really viscerally called towards. Be kind, heart-centered humans that don't take yourself too seriously and build something really incredible and impactful in the world. So from a standpoint, I haven't really felt that. I think what I feel most attached to is everyone that's come on this journey. They've said yes and invested in the vision emotionally and being part of it, and I want to do right by them. And so everyone has equity. The cap table is one class of shares. Also being intentional about funding the company myself, that also removes those external pressures. We don't have to be focused on anything literally other than actualizing the vision in the world and having fun.
I want to hear more about the product. So you knew you wanted to do chips because Willa's carrying around the unnamed yellow bag everywhere, and you knew you wanted to do it better. How did you, what did the actual formulating process look like, and how did you land where you landed, which is this using the whole potato thesis?
The brand promise with Snackish is to really feel good about eating chips every day, and then broader than that, feel good about eating your favorite snacks every day. And so that was really the top of where we layered it down from. And what's really interesting about chips was that in the category there were your potato chips and natural versions of that are sliced potatoes. And then there are tortilla chips that have functional ingredients in them. But no one had actually innovated on the potato chip itself. I very quickly learned why. There was no manufacturing capabilities across North America or really in the world to do it. We really wanted to bring chips back to the potato and the authenticity around that, as well as to have all the ingredients in our chips, things that you could find in your kitchen pantry. And so everything from the seasonings, where We haven't used any natural flavors or preservatives, to actually using the whole potato, where we have the potato itself, but then we have potato protein, which is derived from the skin of the potato and is a complete source of protein, which is really cool.
Did you about that on your own? How did you, I'm always so curious when there's such a unique formulation, like how a founder comes to it. Were you aware that there was more protein and nutrients in the skin and knew you just needed to find a way to make it work?
Oh, I had no idea. I mean,
I had no idea.
No idea. I think that the really cool thing that I've learned is keeping fun at the forefront, but choosing what you want to obsess over and being like absolutely relentless and very anal about what you're choosing to obsess over. And for us, of course, one of those things was the product and wanting to bring it back to the potato. So in just through the path of the obsession, I think through that rabbit hole, you just learn so much. And somehow we were able also serendipitously to align that to owning exclusive rights in North America to potato protein. So that was helpful from a moat building perspective. But I'm a big believer in serendipity as well. And I think when you're working to make a positive impact in the world, that's working towards something much larger than yourself, there's all those intangible things you can't necessarily place logic on, but that also begin to happen.
I love that. And I love that line of thinking for food and bev too. I feel like you don't hear those kind of insights and intuitions around just making a physical product. I'm curious a little bit about the Target launch. Target's become this destination for buzzy emerging brands, more so than it ever has in the past. I've seen a lot of creators calling it the next Whole Foods, which is kind of crazy. It's becoming a very big destination. That relationship, did you go to them first? Did they come to you? And also curious, like, why a national launch with one of these retailers rather than like a slower launch with a bunch of regional players?
The launch strategy came really from my experience with Smart Sweets, where even at that time when we were pretty early on and really no one knew who we were in the world, I saw the power that lies in today's like social forward world, where it actually is more frustrating to our consumer to see us on social and not be able to drive to her local store and find us than it was to do a regional build. And that really paid its way in spades in terms of allowing us to unlock growth and becoming the category leader very quickly. And so with Snackish, I knew that was the way that we had to come out of the gates, both in Canada and the US simultaneously. Of course, the kind of piece or unlock there was, okay, finding the right partner that's not just going to put us on shelf or one or two SKUs on shelf, but really lean in and see the vision for what they're building in their category and the synergies we have. And that was Target. They leaned in and put us on inline, double facings, end cap, check lane, all from day one. And Steven and the team there and the leadership team, I'm like infinitely grateful for them for believing in the vision. They really didn't even try the chips themselves until we launched, because we just had benchtop product. There was a lot of faith and belief, and I don't take that lightly. I knew that we had to do right by them.
It sounds like you're building a house of brands. I'm very excited to see also what other products you come out with in the future around these nostalgic, upgraded versions of these treats. Is there a timeline for what that's going to look like?
I mean, one of the blessings of building the Snacktory from day one was that it really allowed us and forced us to look around the bend and be like, what do we have to build right now to unlock what we're launching tomorrow? One of our next innovations that launches next year, I'm really, really excited about. It's the first in the world. It's never been done, and we're the only manufacturing capabilities for it in North America. I believe actually worldwide. Really excited about that innovation. And the pipeline that we're building beyond that is really informed by our consumer. She's our North Star, and so understanding what's missing in her pantry that she craves every day, and then matching that with the white space in the category and how we can create value for our retail partners and build together.
How far in advance are you thinking right now in terms of innovation pipeline?
We're thinking like kind of like a 3 years out, working backwards, especially because of the nature of what we're doing with our potato chips. We built the Snackery in a wild and insane way, but we wanted to make sure that we were building out our innovation pipeline and our capabilities and like redundancies in a really disciplined way. I know one of the other things that we obsess over is like operational excellence, and that has to be the backbone of Snackish. Otherwise, all the fun and brand awareness and all those bits really don't matter at all.
You don't hear that often. You hear a lot more people focusing more on the marketing side, but having that operational base that you can build everything off of is just so vital to making all of this work, to making the marketing work. I mean, to what you were saying before, it's like you want to be in all the targets if you're doing all this marketing work, but then you also need to have the good operations to make everything else work. It's great. I have one last question. Not a serious question, or not that serious of a question. There is a famous Airbnb, and it's a giant potato.
Oh, the team just sent this.
When are you going to do a brand trip to the giant potato Airbnb?
I literally think serendipity is like doing its thing, because I kid you not, like not even a day ago, this was put in the group chat of like, obviously, that's epic.
You got to go to the potato.
Oh my, yeah, no, that's epic. Like, I need to also somehow hunt down the contact for whoever made his giant potato, because we're making a giant potato for the Snackery entrance. So
amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was such a fun interview, and we love Snackish, and we're so excited about what you're building.
Well, that was a wonderful conversation with Tara Bosch from not Smart Sweets, Snackish. Both. I still haven't tried the product, and I really need to. I will run to Target today to pick it up.
You must. You said you would before.
We've been busy, Jenna.
We've been busy. Yes. We have been busy because last week was Fancy Food Show.
I love the Summer Fancy Food Show at the Javits Center here in New York City.
Yes. So for those who don't know, there are a bunch of trade shows that happen throughout the year in the food and beverage and CPG world. And this one is put on by the Specialty Food Association, and it's called the Fancy Food Show, which incredible name, by the way. We love going to this trade show. We sample lots of stuff. It's a joy. And every time we come back from a trade show, we get asked, what did you notice? What were the trends? What were the themes that you saw there? So we'll share a few.
Yeah. I wish people actually asked us, what did you notice? It's always, what are the trends?
What are the trends? And we always say this, that we don't like to say trends. We like to say the themes, because trend implies that the average consumer is aware of this new thing rising in popularity or is interested in this new thing. And that's not always the case. A lot of the time, it's just the industry hypothesizing that something will be cool at some point. So we can't speak to what will be trendy right now in food and beverage from just this trade show alone, but we can tell you some of the themes that we noticed. The first theme that we noticed is real sugar is back. Real sugar is back, and loud and proud, and real indulgence is also back. So what we saw is that there are so many brands right now that are really leaning into unapologetic indulgence. And I think what's happening here is that there is this health halo around quote unquote real ingredients, or just non-artificial ingredients. And it doesn't really matter if those ingredients are calorie dense, if they're high sugar, it doesn't really matter. The fact is that better for you, and this is an ingredient that I understand, which could be sugar, which could be butter, they've been conflated. And now we've basically gotten to this point where we've gone so far down this diet culture hole that we've swung back and decided that cookies made with butter and sugar and ice cream made with real cream and sugar is actually healthier than the low-calorie artificial ingredient alternatives. And I will leave this up to individuals to decide which is actually healthier for them. But we saw this really prominently in protein ice cream.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The one brand, two brands, really, Just Six and Nimble were ones that sort of were focused on this. Just Six is an interesting one because it's literally just 6 ingredients in that ice cream. And
but those ingredients include real cream and real sugar also.
And that's why it's delicious.
And that's why it's delicious. And they say we're as rich as a Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Even Nimble on their site, their tagline is, getting your protein should feel like a treat. They're like, this should taste so good, and it just happens to also have protein.
Yeah.
Which I do think is interesting because, yeah, we're leaning all the way into indulgence, but we're still adding protein. So they're hedging their bets a little bit of,
Sure.
you think this is healthy because it's made out of real ingredients, but even if you don't think that, we also still have the backup plan of you're going to pick this up because you want to get added protein in.
Yeah. And it's very much, some people might be like, oh, it's competing with the Davids of the world and the Halo Tops. No, it's actually competing for a mass market consumer who really just wants a treat, which most people just want a treat. And then the protein piece is just like, yeah, I'm seeking protein. This is great. Whatever. It's great. It's awesome. It'll make me feel healthier too while having this indulgent treat.
Exactly. It's like, I want to have my normal treat, but also feel a little bit better, which I do think is interesting because I still think those things should be separate. I still think that ice cream should just be ice cream and not have added protein, because even these ice creams that are just ice cream with added protein, again, are borrowing that health halo where a consumer might see on pack that it's high protein and be like, high protein equals healthy, and have it as a this is a better for me treat and feel better about it, when in reality, they just had ice cream that happens to have protein in it. So I still have a bit of an issue with this personally, because I think then consumers are like, oh, this must be healthy, but it's not. It's really high in sugar. So either I think go all the way of like, we are purely indulgent and don't have added protein, or be on the more diet culture side of things, because I think when it's somewhere in the middle, it can really confuse consumers on like how often they should be consuming it, what the portion size should look like. It can get a little murky.
And I think with ice cream in particular, a lot of the protein ice creams, it's in the pint. It's not in a serving, it's in the pint. I think one of the ice creams it might have been Just 6, where the protein for the serving size was bigger than I've seen for other ice creams. However, I don't think people really know what a nutrition label, how that works. People don't look at nutrition labels that closely, at least from the serving size. They look at the numbers and they're like, great. And then they eat the entire thing. And you're like, that's a lot of sugar. That's a lot of fat, salt, whatever. It can be a dangerous thing.
Because we have these learned behaviors from companies like Halo Top, which taught us to eat the whole pint, which taught us when something says this is a better for you ice cream, you can have the whole thing. But now when these more indulgent ones are like, I don't think there was ever a confusion between I should eat a whole pint of Ben & Jerry's and I should eat a whole pint of Halo Top. I think consumers understand the difference between those two things. But when you're somewhere in the middle of we taste like a Ben & Jerry's, we are made with real sugar, but also we have protein in it, people are like, so can I eat the whole pint? That learned behavior can still come across. And that's where I worry that it gets a little misleading. We saw this definitely in the ice cream set, and I think we'll continue to see it in the ice cream set as more protein ice creams come to market. We also, I thought this was really interesting. We walked with a Whole Foods category manager who is a beverage buyer.
Cool.
Yes.
So
Charlie knew. He was incredible. So Charlie's job is finding the coolest new beverages on the market at one of these trade shows that he can then bring onto Whole Foods shelves. And he showed us, this is not to say that this product will land on Whole Foods shelves by any means, but Charlie showed us one of his favorite sips from the show, which was a product called Muesli, a canned A2 flavored milk. It was like a very premium tasting flavored milk product, almost could be like used as a milkshake, I would say.
Yeah.
And he was excited about it. And I turned it over and I saw that it had 37 grams of sugar in it. And I actually was confused because I'm like, Whole Foods, you wouldn't accept that. And Charlie was really passionate about sharing something that did give me a new perspective. It's not his job to pick the healthiest possible option to fill the shelves with. It's his job to have a diverse set of products on his shelf for any kind of consumer.
Right.
And this product, because it doesn't have any artificial sweetener, it's just sugar, does meet the Whole Foods standards. And it could be served as this occasional indulgence. And his logic was, if they didn't have any sugary products in Whole Foods, they wouldn't have an ice cream aisle, they wouldn't have a cookie aisle. And so he needs to make sure that there's representation basically across the set. I just thought that was really fascinating.
It was surprising because Whole Foods has always had this, as we love this phrase, health halo around it. But it's also a national grocery store, and there's plenty of consumers, and there is a whole ice cream set. And they also have a whole candy section too. But it is a very interesting perspective, especially with what you and I, Jenna, are surrounded by all the time. It's all these better for you brands. It's all this removing this, not adding that. And then sometimes we just forget that indulgence is still a thing, even in the health world. And this is a good example of it. I will say 40 grams of sugar is a lot.
The point, like his point was
sugar.
though,
there's sugar in
it wasn't all added.
It wasn't
I
all
think
added.
19 grams were in the milk or something. It was not all added.
Okay.
But it's still. That's
it did
really
taste delicious. I know why,
of
but
course.
it was very good. The horchata one was excellent.
Delish. It was so good. Yeah. And the justification again was like, this would be like an indulgence instead of going out for a milkshake. And I can just have it at home. And a milkshake probably also has 40 grams of sugar in it, but it doesn't have to, like when you go out for a milkshake, there's no nutrition label on it. And so the difference being we are confronted with the amount of sugar on a packaged good in a way that we are not in a typical indulgence.
Yeah.
But my argument to that is still, at least if you're going out for a milkshake, it's an experience. It's getting you out of your home. It's probably social, as opposed to sitting on your couch drinking something with 40 grams of sugar. I have my own things with this, but I really thought that his perspective was interesting.
Yeah.
And I was grateful to walk the show with someone who gave us that alternative perspective.
Yeah, the buyer's POV is endlessly fascinating because there's like a marketing and perception angle to it, of course, like that's in the back of their head, but it's also just like, what are people going to buy and what do people want and how do we meet those needs and build a set around that. It's about building a set. It's not just about health call outs and all that stuff. It's like you need a full selection. It's fascinating. Another thing we saw, and we've been seeing this for years, and I've been talking about this a lot, but the continued boom of high quality frozen products and meals. We did a whole deep dive about the frozen aisles glow up era, where this category was filled with very lackluster products and very much value options. And now they're being premiumized. It's a hard word to say. What's happened in a lot of the other categories has started to really happen in the frozen area. And we're starting to see a lot more innovations in taste, but also formats and more global flavors. And one of the big things at this show that we saw was a continuation of this restaurant quality. Brands have often said restaurant quality as an attribute, but now there's literal restaurant quality, restaurant made products in the frozen set. Benihana, Steve Aoki's dad's restaurant, launched frozen dumplings at this show, which was very good. Mimi Chang's, which has been around for a while, they rebranded, and they were also at the show. Nada's, which is a frozen empanada company. They've had a restaurant and stand here in New York. We tried their guava and cheese flavor. I could eat 1,000 of those. Those were so good. And their other flavors are also excellent. Beef and spinach and cheese and yada yada. But guava and cheese? Oh, amazing.
So it's a really common South American flavor combination. I've had it before from my boyfriend's Brazilian mom, but I haven't seen it reflected in American grocery sets at all, actually. So it was really cool to see him enter the market with something that is familiar to American consumers, being empanadas in relatively familiar flavors, and then start to branch out into some of these more authentic flavors and hope that a consumer will learn to appreciate them as well.
Yeah. Speaking of interesting flavors, there was a frozen pizza that was like Indian dish inspired frozen pizza. There's a butter chicken one. And this is also like they have a few restaurants around Illinois and I think like more the Chicago area, and then they just opened up one in LA somewhere. It's called Masala. They have Indian spiced and flavored pizzas. It was really cool. And then just countless dumplings. There's a endless variety of dumplings out there. Mostly Asian style dumplings, but other like dumpling-esque products. But frozen remains one of the most exciting categories to me and the most interesting ones to me, especially because the variety that you can get in that category and the quality that you can get, especially right now. Like when you heat up some of this stuff, just thaw, like the Magnolia banana pudding. That is an amazing product that took them 3 years to develop. It's still delicious. Speaking of an indulgent treat, that shit is just sugar. But it's very innovative. It's frozen to thaw and it like works every time. And I just think the frozen category has so much more room to grow and take over the set with more, not even just like high end, but this like perfect like middle ground of products that are high quality but not too expensive, but still like convenient and bold flavored.
Yeah, frozen was definitely another one we saw. And then I'll just quickly list off 2 other trends we saw. One of which was we are seeing Indian flavor really have its moment. And we were not the first to notice this. A few of our industry friends talked about it first. And what was interesting is seeing it across many aisles. Obviously, we saw it in one of our favorite products ever, which is Kolkata Chai. They were serving their chai concentrate. We saw it in Panaji, is a non-company. But then we saw it, as you said, there was Masala Pizza. So we saw Indian flavor in pizza. We saw potato chips. Kaya Snacks makes delicious Indian flavor inspired potato chips. Samsara Nutrition makes some of our new favorite protein bars.
So
flavors
good.
Like spice chai and peanut masala. So it was across the board. Indian flavors were really making their way across every aisle, which is something that we really enjoyed. And then last theme that we noticed, no trends. There were just a lot of sauces. Sauces are happening. I know that's a silly thing to say, but we saw some really fun, innovative sauces, especially that were like cultural fusions. So one of them was Kimchi Works, which has kimchi flavored and wasabi flavored chilies and aiolis. So chili and aioli are both familiar American condiments, but they brought some interesting flavors to them. And then I'll let you talk about one of your favorite taste tests from the show. Yeah.
Paco Jones, they had a Mexican ketchup and a Mexican barbecue sauce, and they were just excellent. Such unique flavors for both of those condiments that format, like you were saying, a very familiar format, and putting your unique twist on it and not just trying to dupe a classic is much more interesting to me. Paco Jones was one of my highlights of the show.
What was cool about the barbecue sauce in particular is the base was strawberries.
Yeah,
which is unexpected and cool.
Strawberry in there, it was such a good flavor.
Lots of cool sauces and lots of tang and spice. So people are looking for more like pungent, prominent flavors to up their at-home cooking. Also, side note, I noticed a lot of mustards. Fancy Food does just feature a lot of more like culinary products. So like, of course, there'd be more mustards there. But I saw not one, but 2 brand new mustard brands. One of which I'm really excited about. It's called Mustard, but it's M asterisk.
No, it's called M.
Mustard?
Yeah, they pronounced it funny. They pronounced it the way it was written.
They had really good mustards. They have 4 different SKUs, and they're very pungent. I don't know how to describe. It's like the horseradish spice or wasabi spice that's like in your nose, and I find it extremely satisfying. So I'm excited about that brand. And again, I just think that consumers are looking for more unique spice and tang in some of the products that they're buying to fill their pantries. So those were the summer fancy food observations. If you want to see what Nate and I listed as our favorite bites from the show, you'll have to just look at the newsletter because we're not going to round them off right now or we'd be talking for 10 years. When we start talking about our favorite products, we actually don't stop. So
yeah, constantly.
That was the fancy food roundup, and we had also a lot of industry peers who did some great roundups as well, so we can link some of those in the show notes. And let's get on to the news of the week, because even though it felt like the world stopped moving when we were at fancy food, it actually didn't. So we can start with a fun story around chewing gum, because I don't think we've talked about gum at all on this show ever.
No, we haven't.
Refresh Gum, which is known for being like a plant-based gum, just rebranded. They have a cute new look, but they also launched caffeinated gum and mints. And this isn't that novel, honestly. There are other brands that are doing this, notably NeuroGum is doing it really damn well. Go off on your NeuroGum rant, because it's impressive.
No, NeuroGum is a wildly impressive brand. Yeah, like functional gum might be a new concept to some, but like it's doing numbers for NeuroGum. They're currently sold in over 10,000 retail locations. They were on Shark Tank back in March. Joe Rogan talks about them a lot on their podcast. They've been running ads around that. And the brand is over, I saw $10 million in revenue each month. And a lot of that is just from TikTok Shop. And NeuroGum has a lot of different functions, but one of them is energy, it's focus, mental clarity. Neurogum is really leading that category.
It is, especially now, because gum has been having a tough few decades, like a tough decade, I guess I would say. Gum sales have been falling for the past more than 10 years, actually, at this point. The pandemic did accelerate that issue because there were people wearing masks, there was less socializing. Most notably, there were fewer people in stores impulse buying gum at checkout. And I think that's a really interesting point because gum remains an impulse purchase for many. So it wasn't doing well for many years. And then it also got hit with last year, a study found that gum, regardless of if it's synthetic or natural, can shed some microplastics into our saliva, which was some bad PR for gum.
Yeah, microplastic maxing.
So you will notice that Refresh gum says plastic free loud and proud on its packaging for good reason, because this is a new consumer fear. It's interesting to see how gum is trying to come back. I think there are a few ways it could come back. One of them that's like terrifying is looks maxing, because a lot of these looks maxing influencers are trying to get crazy jaws, so they chew like very hard gum to improve their jaw structure, bone structure. I just think that's actually so dumb. I can't imagine any dentist ever recommends that. That's one reason that gum started to come back. The other reason is GLP-1s. Like everything, gum has been shown to be an appetite suppressant, so it can help when you're on a GLP-1. So there's been different reasons that gum has started to come back, but it really needed a function. Like any category, any dying category right now has been brought back to life by infusing a function into it. And it looks like that's going to be energy and focus gum, like what NeuroGum is doing. But also, who knows what other supplements they are going to start to put into gum and maybe turn it more into a supplement vehicle than a standalone category.
In middle school, I used to have this gum called Jolt gum, where 2 pieces of gum, I think, was like a full cup of coffee of caffeine. And I remember...
This is nothing new.
No, this product's been around since early 2000s. I don't think it's around anymore, but Jolt gum was like a big thing. It's caffeinated gum. And I remember once I tried to have as many pieces as I could. I was wired on my way home once from school.
That was not for you. That
15,
was for
20
like
pieces of gum. I should not have been having that much caffeine.
No, that's for an office worker, like at their 3 p.m. slot.
It's for like a construction worker who's like getting up early.
That's crazy.
It was sugar-free. It had caffeine. It had ginseng. And it had B vitamins.
A health product, for sure. Definitely ahead of its
product.
time, because now it feels like everything else is copying that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this category transforms as functional gum becomes more of a thing, as more brands start to move into functional gum. I'm curious if the Mars Wrigley's of the world will introduce functional gums. Will Orbit come out with a focus gum or whatever it is?
Protein gum.
A protein gum? Maybe. Who's to say? Anything can happen.
Now I kind of want some gum. But let's move on to another story that I thought was very interesting, and it's around intimate wellness. So this brand called Mila, it's a new intimate wellness brand. They just raised $2.5 million in a pre-seed round led by Mensch VC, which incredible name for a VC. So the brand is built around skincare style rituals. They're also leaning into the community aspect of it. But the whole concept is around the goal of making intimate care feel a lot more like everyday self-care and building it more into a wellness product rather than a medicinal taboo one. The sexual and intimate wellness space for years has been very taboo. It just feels
Yeah, I would say like either medicinal or like the exact opposite, like too bold in a way that isn't
grungy,
approachable for most people. Yeah, like when you think of a sex shop, which is what this is trying to go against, it's like almost too in your face abrasive sometimes, and there's like, it's either too sterile or too out there for just the average not too out there for everyone, but for maybe the average consumer. And so there wasn't like this middle ground.
And Mila is part of this new wave of brands trying to make intimate wellness feel less clinical or feel less like a tech shop and more like beauty and wellness. They're trying to feel more like, as the founder told us, Sephora, better designed, much more inclusive, higher quality, and built around rituals that people are already doing with other products in the wellness and self-care space. And something that I think these brands are also doing really well is they're not designed to be hidden away or feel like you're wrong for using them. They're meant to look pretty and cute and sit next to your skincare products and your supplements and just part of a normal ritual of taking care of yourself. And retailers, investors are definitely starting to bet on this. Though Sephora brought in Maud and Dame into the category years ago. I think they're both still the only sexual and intimate wellness products in those stores. Target and Ulta have been expanding their wellness assortments, and that has included intimate care and sexual wellness products. Maud was the first sexual wellness brand to launch in Sephora, and it was only in 2023. That is not that long ago.
That's so crazy. No, not at all.
It's 3 years ago.
It is surprising.
It sucks it's taken this long. Dame has been around since 2014, trying to make intimate and sexual wellness care less taboo and more comfortable for a lot of people, where society has made it very taboo. It is very interesting to see how brands can affect like personal views on cultural things. Such an interesting case study in that it's like, it's so fascinating that it kind of had to take, that it is starting to take brands to make this cultural change rather than
like
some
individual individ, exactly.
But it's kind of using capitalism for good in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
Which is a cringy sentence, but also wonderful that there's these people, there's people out there that are trying to make cultural change in the ways that are accessible to them that have the greatest impact.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think people say all the time, you vote with your dollar. And usually that's said in a bit of a negative connotation of don't support that brand with your dollar because you don't agree with their values. In this case, you're always voting with your dollar. And that can also be a positive thing of I'm choosing to support this brand that's helping to destigmatize something that I think should be destigmatized. And so I completely agree with you. And I think this is a really awesome thing to see happening. And the other thing with this is in some ways, it actually bothers me that we're like having to loop this into broader wellness culture. And
great point.
Wellness culture itself, I obviously take a lot of issues with a lot of the time. And a lot of products that are so core right now to the wellness industry, the wellness industrial complex, whatever it is, don't work or don't have obvious functions. Whereas we know sexual wellness products work. We know what their function is. We've just been too scared to promote that. And
the most functional products on the market.
Imaginable. We don't even need clinical studies. It's known. It's common knowledge this works. And yet we're not talking about it or prioritizing shelf space for it in the same way that we are like random supplements. So I am glad to see something like this happening. Again, this specific raise isn't that insane. It's a pre-seed raise. It's $2.5 million. But I think the fact of it being an oversubscribed round shows that more VCs and, as you said, retailers are starting to dip their toe into this and express excitement in this category. And I can't wait to see what happens.
Obviously, a lot of these brands are started by women, and women, unfortunately, historically have gotten significantly less money from investors.
Yep.
I have high hopes now. There's significantly more female founders. There's significantly more female founders who have had really good exits and really good raises. So hopefully the tides are changing and it flows into this category.
And on the opposite end, something that is nothing to do with wellness, in fact, is actually not good for you. And yet we love it.
It's good for me.
It's good for you. We saw this launch teased this week and then actually saw it. It did launch only in one specific place, and we're pretty excited about this brand and just think there's a lot to say around it. So the launch is Siggy's, CIGGY''S, and I'm spelling that just so that you know that it's CIG and not SIG for reasons I will allude to later. But this is a new ready-to-drink premium vodka seltzer that was teased by a few different influencers and then officially launched in Nantucket on America's 250th last weekend.
Woo.
Very bougie, but has plans and already has a distributor and will be launching in the Northeast. And so this new vodka seltzer, there are a lot of vodka seltzers out there right now, and the ready-to-drink alcoholic seltzer space probably feels saturated to a lot of people, but there is still room for innovation from actually premium and differentiated products, and I think this could be one of them. And If you are not watching this podcast, you should look up this brand because the visuals are pretty important to the storytelling around here. It's very much borrowing the aesthetic of a very old school classic American beer brand or even a cigarette brand. It's the silver can, really old school fonts. It just is it looks like a classic American beer brand, which again is great differentiation in this category because when you think about the first ready-to-drink seltzers, White Claw and Truly in 2016, they did not look like that, one. They, two, were malt-based, so they were not actually made with a spirit. And now those are both kind of declining. The category is moving towards these spirit-based versions that are made with real vodka, real tequila, real juice. And these pre-mixed cocktails and spirits are growing. They grew 16% last year, while malt-based seltzers actually declined 14% in their category share. So it's a lane that is worth chasing. I think High Noon is obviously doing really well in this lane. I know Surfside's doing really well. That's not seltzer. So there are other brands that are doing really well in this, but it's not saturated yet. The malt shelf is losing space to these premium products that have an actual point of view. Siggy's has an actual point of view.
And I think leaning to the premium side too is because a lot of people grew up with the White Claws and all that world, and they're like, wait, malt-based beverages are they're great. And then they tried Surfside, but now they're getting a more mature, they're getting a little bit more creative, and they want something that's better. And this not only looks better, I'm sure it tastes better whenever we get to try it. I'm very curious to see how this tastes. I'm not personally a vodka boy, but
I like vodka.
I love the aesthetic of this thing. I think it's so good. I love the nude can situation. There really isn't anything like this on the market for this category. The aesthetic is giving me a cool dive bar. Like a dive bar I want to be seen at. Like a rich person's dive bar.
Totally. One thing I want to quickly go back to is the name again, because I don't know why they called it this, and it probably doesn't have to do with this, but I saw this and I immediately thought, okay, the fridge sig has materialized. So again, it's called Siggy's with a C, and fridge sig is this new viral term that all of these TikTokers are calling their Diet Coke. And the idea is, a Diet Coke isn't actually good for you in the same way that a cigarette isn't actually good for you, but there's something so exciting about having it waiting in your fridge, and you can take your little smoke break, or in this case Diet Coke break, and just enjoy this little indulgence. And cigarettes are back. They've regained their cool factor, and so when there's a brand that wants to borrow that cultural cachet via the name, via the branding, they're the literal fridge cig. This is a drink that you can put in your fridge. It's not good for you. It's not trying to be good for you, but it's fun. It's classic. It feels this raw, confident American vibe. And I think that's really playing into some of the trends that we're seeing culturally around cigarettes themselves, or this fridge cig concept too.
Yeah, cigs are back, which is wild.
Horrifying. They're a known carcinogen, by the way. And I also need to add this caveat: Diet Coke is not a known carcinogen.
No.
Because aspartame,
we're not really sure that they're even.
You would have to have so much. Yes, I feel the need to say that every time someone's, I'm drinking cancer. I'm like, literally, there is no proof for that at all. But we do know cigarettes are bad for you.
Quick rant. Also, these people are probably consuming unknown peptides from China and probably not using sunscreen. Use sunscreen.
Known carcinogen. Known. The sun. Cigarettes.
We are not plants. Anyways.
We continue.
All right, Jenna. Last freaking story of the podcast. If you've made it this long, you're welcome. If you haven't made it this long, who am I talking to? So Nutrabolt, they own brands like C4 and Celicor and Extend, and they also own a majority stake of Bloom Nutrition, which a lot of people probably know and we've talked about a lot. They announced they are going to IPO. They're targeting an IPO up to $1 billion, with 40 freaking banks leading the deal. And this is another big IPO from another big, previously independent CPG company. And this one I think will do very well. They're hitting a lot of trends that are happening right now in the supplement space, in the wellness space, in the caffeine and energy space. They're also like a very successful company. C4's been around for a long time. Bloom, them adding Bloom to their portfolio was such a good move.
Right.
Great timing with everything.
I think they're in a pretty good space to be IPOing right now, as you said. Yeah, I think an interesting point is that Keurig Dr. Pepper owns a 30% stake in the company, which, by the way, is now valued at $2.8 billion, so lots of money. But yeah, so they're not really operating as this solo company.
Yeah.
So I think they will do well, and I think the timing is right for them. If they waited a few years, some of these trends wouldn't be trends anymore, and hopefully they can continue to adapt with the market. But it is very validating when we see, like, IPOs don't happen very frequently in CPG.
No.
So it makes sense to see it in this category that we know has been booming a lot recently, but we haven't seen any IPOs from it yet. So
yeah, and I wonder if this also will lead to some more acquisitions and roll-ups from Nutribulk. There's a lot of businesses on the market that would do really well under their portfolio, both from a distribution perspective, but also just from a resource perspective.
Yes.
In general, they would be able to help, I think, a lot of brands that we talk about, that we see in this IPO and this rate effectively raised for them. Maybe they raise even more than that. Who knows? Could allow them to scoop up some other businesses that are playing in their field that would do really well in their portfolio, or maybe playing adjacently to their field that would also do very well in their portfolio. Thank you, everybody, for listening to yet another week of us yapping. Mother, hello. I know you're listening. If you haven't...
Sharon!
Hi! If you haven't subscribed yet, please do at expresscheckout.co. Find us on Instagram at expresscheckout. We're also on TikTok a little bit. And we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, folks.
Bye.